So I'm in some random Starbucks in the middle of downtown Las Vegas typing this out for reasons that are beyond me. I guess that if I die I want at least someone to know what happened to me. You're probably getting the impression that I am scared for my life, but you would be completely wrong. In fact, I'm having the most fun I've ever had. This is by far the best game I've ever played. Now enough of my babbling, let me indulge you on why I hired a hitman on myself. So it all started about 4 weeks ago. I'm sitting in my office bored as all hell, staring blankly into my computer, counting each individual white pixel on that goddamn screen. As I'm staring off into space, enjoying the peace and quiet of my own little world, I start thinking to myself, how did I end up this way? My life has boiled down to me sitting in this fucking cubicle for 8 hours a day, eating, and sleeping. I sure as hell didn't grow up thinking, boy, I'd sure like to spend the rest of my life filing acquisitions for some soul-draining corporation. I mean, I make good money, sure, but I don't even feel human anymore. It's like I'm just going through the motions. I have no kids, no girlfriend, no family that actually want anything to do with me. I'm completely alone. I need some adventure in my life again, some excitement. Fuck, anything is better than what I'm doing right now. I was snapped out of thinking how pathetic my life was by my annoying ass boss asking me if I had finished with this week's paperwork. I hadn't yet, but I lied and told him I did. He told me in his "I'm superior to you" tone to have it on his desk tomorrow morning. Yeah, I'll get right on that, you self-centered brick. I finished up with the form I had been working on and turned off my computer. It was 5 p.m., signaling the end of another meaningless day. I got home and started thinking about what I could do to make life a bit more fun. I went through the usual ideas of a vacation, moving to a new city, maybe even a new car, yet they all fell short. I needed something really fucking crazy to go down. I wanted to drop a bomb on my former life and really get shit started. I started fucking around on the deep web, looking at all the illegal shit that they have to offer. And then I saw an ad that said, "Have a problem in your life? Hire one of our cleaners to take care of it at Cthulhu's Resume." Now my interest was piqued. I checked out their website and it was a site to hire a hitman. Then a thought popped into my head. What if I hired a hitman on myself? It would be like a game of cat and mouse, and the punishment for getting caught would be, of course, death. I was curious to see what their guidelines were, and to see how far they would go to eliminate a target. So I emailed them saying I had a problem I wanted to get rid of. Within 3 hours I got a response back, informing me of all the details of the business and the range of prices it would cost me. I didn't respond right away, allowing myself time to think carefully of what I would be getting myself into. The more I thought about it, the more excited I got. This was the ultimate adventure game, like a real-life video game. I would have someone that would spend night and day hunting me down, and I would have to spend all my time hunting them down. The first person to find the other wins, and the loser dies. It was perfect. So I went into work the next day, knowing that it would be my last day there. I did what every cubicle monkey dreams of doing. I told my boss that he can go fuck himself, told the smoking hot receptionist that I wanted to bend her over her desk and fuck her brains out, and destroyed every last form and file I had in that shithole prison just to make things harder for all the douchebags I worked with. Then I got to work on setting everything up. I went out and bought myself some new toys at the local gun store. Bought myself a new 9mm Glock, a PS-90 assault rifle, and my crown jewel, a Barrett 50 California sniper rifle. I also stopped by this nifty little spy store in my city and picked up a few things. A few objects with discrete cameras in them that allowed me to watch them through my phone, bug detectors, and a voice changer. I then took $30,000 from my savings account and converted it into bitcoins. After all that was completed, I contacted the man who had first emailed me and gave him all of my info, and told him that this man would be very hard to catch as he travels a lot, and that he may be armed. I told him that I didn't want just one of their regular cleaners on this job, I wanted the best they had to offer. Shortly after sending the email, I received a message back informing that they would send one of the best, but it would cost a bit more. He also said that as soon as I sent the payment they would get started. The last line of the email he sent me made me realize shit was going to get serious very quickly. Just a quick warning for you. Once the payment is sent and confirmed, there is no going back. The job will be taken care of and there's nothing that can be done to stop it. Perfect. I sent the payment immediately, and got a confirmation email back that it was received and that someone would be sent out the next day to my location. Now the real fun can begin. So there's the start to the huge shit show I created for myself, and like I said, it's been loads of fun. I've been in this Starbucks for about 2 hours now and I need to get going as I can't stay in one location for too long. I'll update tomorrow with the rest of my story so far if people are interested. Wish me luck. The deep web is one of the most amazing things on Earth. Not because of how joyful it makes people or anything, but because it is a completely uncensored view of people. You can speak your mind, buy what you want, do anything you want. When on the deep web, you have complete and total freedom. I had always been fascinated by the deep web, and at the time the events in this story occurred, I was in college. Lots of people at my campus had really been getting into accessing the deep web. It was almost like a trend. With so many people getting on it, it seemed perfectly safe for me to give it a try. Now I had always heard of the deep web horror stories, stories of hacking, stumbling on disgusting sites, and people even somehow finding your address. These stories were mainly what kept me off the deep web. But with most of the people at my college using it on a normal basis, I decided to give it a go. I asked a friend to come over and help me set it up. When my friend arrived, we opened up my laptop and began to set everything up. He told me that we were using Tor, a program that lets you access the deep web. He also asked me if I was planning on doing anything illegal, to which I replied no. He said that since I wasn't, we didn't need to install Tails, which is apparently a software that makes it more secure if you plan on doing illegal things. A little while later, everything was set up. I had my new IP address, and my friend gave me a brief rundown of what to do and what not to do. He made it very clear that when I was using the hidden wiki, that I kept it on censored mode, so that it would be less likely for me to see something I didn't want to see. After about 2 weeks of using the deep web, I felt like a pro. I had accessed many different sites, spoken with some great people, made friends, even bought some weed. I had become cocky and was ready to dig deeper into the dark web. I turned off the censored mode on the hidden wiki and began to browse the links. It took a while, mostly because Tor is a bit slow and many of the links just led to dead web pages. Eventually, I stumbled onto a site called All the Gore. It was mainly a big chat room, with many different topics. I had a fairly strong stomach, I had seen many violent movies, and had seen beheadings, killings, through the normal internet. After looking at a few different chat rooms, I noticed how sick this site really was. The people in these chat rooms were actual killers, bragging about some of the things they had done. In the chat room, you could also post pictures. One man by the name of Culture045 had the stage in one of the chat rooms. He was explaining in detail how he had broke into Sumion's house, kidnapped a little girl, and brutally killed her parents by hiding under the bed, and then opening their throats. He then explained how he brought the little girl back to his house, raped her, beat her, and cut her up. I didn't think he was telling the truth at first, but then he posted pictures. These were the most horrifying pictures I had ever seen. Close-ups of the poor 8-10-year-old girl being brutally raped, beaten, and cut with a knife. Culture kept posting pictures. The new ones were of the girl, tied to a chair, bleeding, crying, throwing up, act. Then, he showed a picture of him with a drill, drilling into her skull. The most haunting part is that while he was doing it, he was looking at the camera ... with sheer joy on his face. I had seen enough, and typed in the chat room window, "You people are sick, and deserve to die. How can you sleep at night?" Immediately people began making fun of me, saying that I was just as helpless and ignorant as the little girl in the pictures and that I should get off the big boy part of the internet. They began saying I was a pussy, and calling me an empath when Culture typed something in the chat box. He said, "Really? Where do you live, buddy? I'm sure everybody would love to see you on this site." I then made the biggest mistake of my life, and typed "I'm calling the police," and having this site shut down. Less than a minute later, everything on the site went black, and a new chat box appeared in green. In it, someone named Admin1 typed in the box. He said, "Call the cops, and you will regret it." I didn't type anything in the box, and reached for my cell phone. What happened next haunts me to this day. My phone said I had a new message. I opened it, and it said, "Call the police, and you're dead." There was no number. It didn't even say unknown number, it was just blank. I looked back at my laptop and saw my webcam light turn on. I quickly covered it, but I saw on the screen a picture of me looking at my phone. I got wide-eyed and froze for a moment when the admin typed again, "Put the phone down right now, and uncover your webcam." I put my phone down, but kept the webcam covered, when he typed again. Okay then, be like that. Right after, he posted my full name, age, and address in the chat box and typed, "It would be a shame if you and your college buddies went missing, wouldn't it?" he said. I then did as he said, and uncovered my webcam. He then told me to follow his instructions on how to make it impossible for me to reach the site again. I followed each and every one. When I finished, I got a text that said, "Now don't ever try and come back just like before." It had no number. I still called the police from my friend's phone, but they were never able to find the site. If you ever go on the deep web, don't ever just mindlessly explore, especially if you don't have additional software to keep you more secure. I was a stupid college kid, and I just hope nobody makes the same mistakes I did. I moved to a different home and changed all of my information, but I still get nightmares to this day. I was extremely rattled by what had happened. The police tried to track down the website, but since there was no way for them to recover my history, and I had originally found the sick site by just randomly clicking links, it seemed pretty hopeless to find it. The police told me to change all my information about myself, and to move in with a friend. After changing pretty much all of my information, I decided to move in with my friend David. David was an extremely honest, hardworking person. He never went to parties, slacked off, got drunk, high. He was very dedicated to finishing college. In fact, he was one of the few kids I knew at the time who wasn't getting on the deep web regularly. I had told him all about my experience with the deep web, and that's mostly why he agreed to let me stay with him. One night, we were both up studying very late, when my phone went off. I looked to see who had texted me, and saw that the person sending the message had no number, just like last time. It read, "Check your computer." There was nothing else to it, just one simple instruction. I opened my laptop, and when I did, I noticed that I didn't have control of the mouse. I tried to move it, but the mouse had just moved on its own. Someone had remote access to my computer somehow. I never gave anyone remote access before. I tried a whole bunch of keyboard commands, but not a single one worked. I noticed that whoever had control of my laptop was downloading a software, most likely malware, but there was nothing I could do. I heard my phone go off again, and this time, the message said, "Look out your window." I was sitting right by a window. I didn't know which window the guy was referring to, so I looked out the one I was sitting by, and saw a man in the parking lot leaning up against a white van. He had a phone in his hand, and when I looked at him he nodded. My phone went off again. Type in and hold down Alt F5 at the same time to activate the software. I called in David to my room to show him what was going on. He seemed just as nervous as I was, but with the man just outside our window, we didn't want to anger him. David called the police right away and told me that they would be there soon. I didn't activate the software, and just sat there. Eventually I got another text. "I am coming, and if you don't do it right now." I didn't know why he, or the person in control of my computer, couldn't do it, but I didn't dare to ask. At the same time though, I was 99% sure this program had malware or spyware or something that would be very harmful to my computer, so I refused to activate it. David grabbed a baseball bat just in case the man outside tried to come in. About 5 minutes later, we heard the doorknob turning. It was locked, but we then heard banging at the door. We both freaked out, and I looked out the window again. Sure enough, the man and the van were gone. The banging on the door got more and more violent, until eventually, we heard a horrible scratching sound. It lasted a few more minutes, and then we heard footsteps walk down the hall, and eventually fade away. I received another text, "We will be back." That really got to me. When the cops arrived, they told me to look at my door. I followed them back out into the hallway and saw engraved in our door, my name. The police began investigating the whole building, and they had a tech police officer come in and look at my computer. He began to do scans and investigate the weird software on my laptop. Eventually he managed to close and remove it, and told me that my laptop isn't safe. He said the core files of it have been hacked into, corrupted. We did a complete wipe of my laptop, and he looked at my phone as well. Just like last time, he couldn't tell where the messages came from, and told me that they would be sure to keep some cops nearby in case this ever happened again. The next day, I had just got home from school and was really tired. David wasn't home yet, so I went into my room and fell into the bed. I had just begun to close my eyes when I heard a rattling sound in my closet. I lifted my head up, and didn't hear it again, so I went back to sleep. After a few minutes, the closet door swung open. I leapt out of bed, and saw a man with a mask walking over to me. I ran for the door and slammed it behind me. I ran out to the parking lot, started my car, and drove away as fast as I could. By the time the police arrived, the man was of course gone. The apartment surprisingly hadn't been wrecked or anything. We didn't even find anything stolen. He didn't seem to do anything at first. This night, 2 police officers were monitoring everyone who came in, out of the building, in order to catch the man. I opened my laptop and noticed that my wallpaper had changed. It was just a bunch of trees, but it had been changed to a sickening photo of a man with a mask, the same mask that I saw on the man who was in my closet, digging a knife into a baby's eye in what looked like a small cabin. I also noticed that all my applications and programs were gone, and I saw the same software as last time, right in the middle. I clicked on it, and it had already been installed. Just like last time, it filled the entire screen, and what looked like a live stream was going on. I couldn't exit out, and the live stream was coming from a boy's house. He looked about 13 or 14, and was at his computer. It didn't take long for me to see that I was watching through his webcam, and he had no idea. I saw a small chat box pop up in the top right of the screen, and in it, someone typed in the box, "Welcome to our live stream. We are glad everyone could be here. Thank you, John, for being here as well." My eyes got very wide. My name was John, and they were waiting until I was watching to start the live stream. As I watched, I saw that the closet door behind the poor boy slowly opened, and a man walked out with a toolbox in one hand. He quietly set the toolbox down, and pulled out some duct tape. He went behind the kid, and put the tape over his mouth, and grabbed him tight. The poor kid's face was of total fear. He tried to scream, but he couldn't because of the tape. They were making a decent amount of noise, so it told me that the kid must have been home alone. Major NSFW right here, so proceed with caution please. I tried hard to exit out, but I couldn't. I then saw the man take out a screwdriver, and drive it into the kid's chest. Blood began to pour out, and the kid made a full wheezing type noise. I saw tears come from his eyes as this sick man began to drive the screwdriver deeper and deeper, and then yank it out. The man then took out a hammer, and smashed the kid's hands several times till they were nothing more than a mangled bloody mess. I tried every command I could to exit out, but nothing was working. I noticed that in the chat box several people were cheering the man on, and requesting for him to do different things to the boy. The man then took out a handheld electric saw, press it against the boy's face, and turn it on. The boy screamed with pain as the saw went up into his eye, causing blood to go everywhere and get on the camera a little as well. I started to get tears in my eyes as I couldn't stop it. Then, the man took the screwdriver, gouged out the kid's eyes, and took out a large knife. He proceeded to slit the boy's throat, and tossed him on the ground. I was sick. I threw up all over the floor, and when I looked back, I saw in the chat box, people typing in horrible things like "fap fap fap" or "oh my god, that was so wonderful. Thanks so much for doing this act." In the box, I saw someone named Culture045 type into the box, "Thanks for watching, John." After that, the program closed on its own, and I was left with the sickening wallpaper. I was sweating, breathing heavy, and feeling sick. Throughout the entire thing, I didn't realize that my phone had gone off several times. I looked at it, and the most hateful, mean messages were coming from my friends and family. I asked my mum what was wrong, and she texted back, "You sent that sick, disturbing live stream to everyone. I can't believe who you are. The police have been called." I felt even more sick than before. Those monsters had sent that live stream to all my friends somehow, and made it come from me. They had pretty much ruined my life, within a couple minutes. When the police arrived, I told them everything that had happened, and quickly they managed to explain to all my friends and family what had happened. They really cracked down on finding these people, and a month later, 4 men had been arrested. One was Culture045, The other was admin 1, and the 2 others were working with them. The site was found and shut down as well, and I got a new laptop and phone. I could say some horror cliché here and say something like I kept getting texts, or kept hearing weird things ever since, but none of that happened. They were arrested, and I never heard anything further. It's good to know that those men are in jail or perhaps even dead, but what scares me is all the other people watching the live stream, who were there for pleasure, are still out there, and that there is probably thousands of other Culture 045s out there all over the world. If you ever go on the deep web, make damn sure you're as careful as possible. Remember when deep web stories were the fat? Every week, you'd find a new tale of someone going too far on the deep web, finding something terrible, and ending up getting attacked for speaking out against it. This story's a bit similar. The difference is, I still love the deep web. Let me explain. I was a senior in high school at the time, and I was definitely no popular kid. My friends were the oddities of the school, the few people who dared to defy the norm. It was them who told me about the deep web, a place on the internet where you are completely unwatched, anonymous, capable of doing whatever you want. Of course, I was intrigued. Most of my friends just used it to buy drugs, but I thought a little bigger. I wanted to know what happened in the darkest parts of the deep web, whether or not my friends were telling the truth when they talked about horrible fetish sites and assassins you can hire to kill anyone you like. Of course, I wasn't planning on using any of it. I've never been particularly interested in sex, so fetish sites don't interest me, and there's really nobody I'd like to kill. It was the mystery of it all that fascinated me. Going to these sites would be like peering into a side of the world only a few have ever seen, like a wholly new experience. At the time, I was tired of the monotony of life. I'd get up at the same time every day, go to school, attend the same classes, talk to the same people, go home, play some games, do homework, go to sleep, and then it'd repeat. I wondered if other people got tired of that. Anyway, it took me a while to actually dive into the deep web. As fascinated as I was, I'd been warned of what could happen to me. I read the stories I talked about, too. Who isn't afraid of being threatened by hackers, or stalked by some creep you piss off online? That kind of shit kept me from actually going on the deep web. Until the day I manned up and decided it was time to break the monotony. It was time to delve into the underbelly of the internet, time to see a world I had only dreamed of. For the first week or so, it was fucking boring. It was just drug sites, and stuff where people exposed government secrets, or whatever. Nothing as dark as I expected. I don't even do drugs, so that was useless to me, and I wasn't into politics. There wasn't really much I was into back then. So, I was disappointed. The only reason I kept exploring was my sheer desire to experience the world I thought existed on the deep web. That world was darker than any drug site. That world had murder, torture, fucked up porn for fucked up people, and all sorts of nasty shit. I eventually got my wish. Just when my apathy towards the deep web got to its highest point, I found what I was looking for. The site didn't have a name. I thought it was a broken link for a bit, since it only led me to a black screen. Right before I could click out, however, a chat box opened on the screen. Someone using the name admin typed in the chat box, saying, "Congrats. You found the worst place on the fucking net." I stared at the screen, more bemused than afraid. It took me a moment to type back. "Cool. That's all I said. What else was there to say? I'm here to see your finest torture porn. A moment after, the admin replied. Ha ha. You want in? I hesitated, all those horror stories flooding back into my head, but it was too late to chicken out. This was what I came for. Even if I just clicked out at the first sign of danger, I had to see what was there. I had to break the fucking monotony. I had to know. I hastily typed back, not allowing myself to stop. Yeah? The chat box closed, and I was led directly to what looked like a video, with another chat box next to it. There were around 5 other people there, each eagerly waiting for something. The video was in black and white, and showed a small room. The only thing inside was a wooden chair, until, after around 5 minutes of waiting, the door to the room opened. A man was shoved inside, blindfolded and naked, save for a pair of black briefs. He was followed by a woman, this one dressed all in black, her face covered by a mask. In an instant, the chat room went wild. I almost closed the window to spare myself, knowing immediately where this was going, but again, I told myself that this was what I wanted. Maybe not the torture, but the window into the very worst parts of the world. The woman pulled a knife from her pocket and cut off the man's blindfold as she shoved him into the chair. He didn't struggle for a moment, and once his eyes were visible I could see why. It looked like he'd been drugged. Resisting was impossible. I frowned, glancing to the side. This was fucked up. I knew this was fucked up. My conscience told me to call the cops, or at least to click out, but I forced myself to watch. She turned to the camera, pointing the knife at the man's throat. One of the people in the chat typed. One of the fingers. Cut off one of his fingers. I clenched my hands into fists, taking in a sharp breath. Was this really fucking happening? Was I gonna just watch as this guy got mutilated, as a small crowd of people watched in glee? I felt like throwing up, a feeling that only worsened when the woman nodded and turned to the man, grabbing his limp hand and carefully slicing off one of his fingers. Blood spurted from the wound, and the man moaned in pain, but he couldn't fight back. Breathing heavily, I hovered my cursor over the X, planning on getting the fuck out of air dash. But I didn't. The woman looked unimpressed, as if she thought the people in chat could do better. Another person called for a slice up the man's arm, and she complied. He was bleeding heavily now, clearly in deep pain, but these people were fucking sick. They were cheering her on from chat, suggesting new and painful tortures for her to inflict. Eventually, I stopped breathing heavily, I stopped feeling sick. It was starting to grow on me. By the end, the man was on the ground, covered in blood and breathing heavily. I watched this for around half a minute. The people in chat were starting to die down. They'd inflicted enough pain, they had their fun. It seemed like things were wrapping up. Funny, I thought, how it was over just when I was getting into it. I smirked. This was exciting. This was better than any game I could play, much better than any fucking class I could attend. Better than sitting with a group of fucking nobodies pretending like I cared for a goddamn second about them. This was the world I wanted to see. This was darkness, this was the underbelly, this was reality. Fucking end him. Slit the throat. I typed in chat for the first time. She nodded for one last time, bringing the man to his feet before slowly dragging her blade across his throat, sending more of his blood spurting out. Once it was done, she dropped him, and he fell to the ground, limp. He was dead. The people in chat started complimenting the torturer, talking about how it had been another good time, starting to set a date for the next showing. On screen, the woman left the room, leaving the corpse behind. Of course, I hastily wrote down the date for the next showing. This was going to be part of my life, now. I was going to be part of something bigger, I was going to command these people's deaths. What? A rush. So, yeah? I still love the deep web. I'm in college now. And now, I'm even more immersed in the deep web. I've seen shit some people would freak out just knowing exists. I've fucked around every sick porn site known to man. I've finally broken the monotony of life. Inspirational, right? How one high schooler defies the boredom inherent in his life by discovering his true passion. I love the deep web.